Visualeconomik community. In just 1 week, the technology war between China and the US has returned to the spotlight. Semiconductors are the oil of the 21st century, and artificial intelligence models are the modern tanks. In just a few years, war, its strategies and tactics will be decided by super intelligent robots. They will be the most powerful weapon of the future. And just when it seemed that the USA was leading the field, bang! China has arrived with DeepSeek to break all the schemes. But there's still more.
Alibaba releases AI model it says surpasses DeepSeek.
AI has become a national priority for both countries, and one of the major players has a plan to secure leadership: Donald Trump. During World War II, the Manhattan Project was responsible for developing the nuclear bomb, and now, following suit, Donald Trump wants to do the same with AI development. These days, we're talking about the Stargate project.
A $500 billion investment plan says a lot about Trump's AI priorities. Trump added that Stargate will build the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers.
$500 billion. That's early days, but it's more than the entire GDP of Norway. We're talking about almost 2% of US GDP, which is more than what some countries spend on all R&D investment. To put this in perspective, the entire Apollo program cost between $280 and $320 billion in today's money. Artificial intelligence is going to get twice as much. The best part? That, in theory, all of this will be 100% private investment that will not cost American taxpayers a single dollar. What's clear is that Trump has made a splash. However, this program is full of unknowns. So here on Visualeconomik, we have asked the following questions. What exactly is all this money going to be spent on? What impact can we expect from this program? And perhaps the most important question, how does this affect Uncle Sam's relationship with China? Stargate, gateway to the stars. It's not just Trump's own Manhattan Project, but a company that includes 4 key members. On the one hand, there is OpenAI, the company behind the famous ChatGPT. This will be in charge of converting all the project's money into results. Then there is SoftBank, a Japanese technology investment bank that will be putting up the money along with MGX, another investment fund from the United Arab Emirates. We also have Oracle, one of the largest data center operators worldwide. And finally, companies such as Microsoft and Nvidia will collaborate with their technology, although they will not be directly involved in the project. And yes, I know, if all the investment is going to be private, what does Donald Trump and the US government have to do with any of this? Well, take a look at this chart. The political right is the new punk. When Trump won the election in 2016, many Silicon Valley companies organized self-help groups because many of their workers were traumatized by the idea that the Republican president had made it to the White House. But since then, things have taken a 180-degree turn. Biden promised lots of subsidies to big tech, but also regulations, and more regulations. Trump, on the other hand, promises the opposite, and it seems that this has served to make the big tech companies fight to see who can finance the president's electoral race the most. Obviously, you have Elon Musk, who has become something like the shadow vice president of the Republican administration. The question is, are all these CEOs really convinced that Trump is the best thing for the country? Well, they may be, or they may simply be betting on the winning horse. We don't know their reasons, and it's not important either. What is really important is that the collaboration between the big tech companies and the Trump administration is closer than ever. And that explains the words of Masayoshi Son, the head of SoftBank.
Mr. President, last month I came to celebrate your winning and promised that we will invest $100 billion. And you told me, oh Masa, go for 200. Yeah. Now I came back with 500 because this is the, as you said yesterday, this is the beginning of golden age. We wouldn't have decided unless you won.
We wouldn't have decided this unless you won. It couldn't be any clearer. Of course, this creates a new question. Will Trump really be a good ally for big tech? Well, so far, on his first day, he signed an executive order removing one of Joe Biden's most intrusive regulations, that the companies behind AI would have to maintain regular contact with the government to alert them about the safety standards of their models. And yes, within these security standards, there were things like preventing ChatGPT from being able to blurt out a racist comment. But that's not all.
The thing I really deeply agree with the president on is, it is wild how difficult it has become to build things in the United States. Power plants, data centers, any of that kind of stuff.
Sam Altman is very clear on this point. In a recent letter about OpenAI's roadmap, the company's CEO compares AI to early automobiles. Actually, it was England that invented the automobile, but it was so afraid of change that, by law, a man had to go in front of the car with a flag announcing that an automobile was about to pass. No doubt you can imagine at what maximum speed the vehicle could go, barely 6 kilometers per hour. But the US did the opposite. It embraced the automobile, allowed the industry to grow, and took care of the problems that arose as it went along. For example, by building better highways and roads within the cities. And this is exactly what Trump has actually promised. Deregulation, especially when it comes to building the infrastructure these companies need. No sooner did he arrive at the White House than Trump signed orders to create exemptions to prevent these projects from having to pass environmental assessments, such as NEPA, which stall the construction of this type of infrastructure for several years. But wait a minute. Stargate has been touted as the new Apollo project, an unprecedented innovation boom. However, there are many who doubt that this project will actually come to fruition, starting with none other than Elon Musk himself.
They don't actually have the money.
$500 billion is a lot of money, so it's not surprising that everyone's wondering where it's really going to come from. And one thing is certain, SoftBank doesn't seem to have enough money to pay for even the first year of investment. Musk's figures are too low, but it's true that the liquidity of this fund is around $40 billion. What's more, they hold $140 billion in shares of Arm, a Nasdaq company, and nearly $20 billion of Alibaba, the Chinese e-commerce giant. If it sold all this, it could start to finance the investment. But even apart from the fact that it's very unlikely that it would do so, it's still short of the $500 billion. And as for the other partners, it doesn't seem that they will serve to make up the shortfall. For his part, Microsoft's CEO has said that he plans to invest $80 billion. Yes, but that's in Azure, Microsoft's infrastructure, not in this project. The latter is very important because many people see the Stargate project as a mechanism for OpenAI to stop depending so much on Microsoft, which is its main funder. But beyond the friction between these two companies, it's clear. Either they're looking for more investors, or they're going to fall far short of the $500 billion figure. And it seems that they're opting for the first option, to look for more commercial partners. But of course, in theory, Stargate is a 5-year project. Are they really going to be able to invest so much money productively if they don't even have half of the funding secured? It seems tricky. However, there is a third option. That Stargate is simply a marketing strategy. There are analysts who believe that this $500 billion is money that technology companies have already been investing in various projects for some time, and meanwhile, selling it as a mega project that would be a move to please Trump more than anything else. It always sells much more to say that you are going to start a macro project to go to the moon than to say that you have lots of small investments that may someday be useful. There's no better example of this than the data center that Stargate is setting up in Texas. Is it a huge state-of-the-art center? Yes, but it's nothing new. In fact, it's an Oracle investment that started 2 years ago. Now, this may not even be the worst of it. Even if Sam Altman gets all the funding he needs and invests it in new projects, it's not clear that things will go as well as expected this time.
Keep in mind, chips and servers are short-lived assets that depreciate quickly. There's a reason accountants calculate useful lives in the 3-5-year range. Because of this, the unit economics of such investment demand a much faster return on capital.
The problem with data centers is that they become obsolete very quickly. Or to put it another way, in order to amortize the investment, they have to be profitable in a very short time. In other words, those $500 billion are going to have to be recovered very quickly, or at least the part that is going to build infrastructure. The question is, how? Because OpenAI has a lot of trouble making money with its current business model, and Microsoft, which is much better at making money, is only able to generate $80 billion with its department aimed at offering tools to businesses, which is the closest thing to what OpenAI does. Now, what if I told you that this, in reality, might not be so important? The Manhattan Project had nothing to do with profitability or money. The only thing that mattered was national security. Scientific publications on nuclear physics became confidential and ceased publication. Meanwhile, the US government recruited its best scientists to develop a weapon of mass destruction ahead of its enemies. What's more, there's a theory that artificial intelligence could be like the atomic bomb. The first one to reach a certain point has a crucial advantage over the rest. The reason? Very simple. I'm sure some of you have used AIs like ChatGPT for programming, right? right? Well, there's nothing stopping a slightly smarter AI from programming another AI to be slightly better than itself. Then you make 1,000 copies of that new AI and put them to work creating a slightly better one, until you get to something so smart that it outperforms all humans. Of course, no one knows if this is something that can actually be done, but it's a possibility that could explain why the US has suddenly invested so much money. And this is not new. Joe Biden has already banned the export to China of state-of-the-art chips used to train the most advanced AIs, but this doesn't seem to be enough. On the one hand, China will simply find a way to manufacture these chips itself, even if it takes a few years. And on the other, well, see for yourselves. A few days ago, a Chinese company released DeepSeek, an artificial intelligence chatbot so good that it competes with ChatGPT and is apparently much cheaper. It's not as cheap as the Chinese claim, but it's certainly a high-end AI that incorporates efficiency improvements. On top of that, and to make it all the more ironic, DeepSeek is an open source model, while OpenAI, which has open in its name, is closed source. So the race for artificial intelligence is very, very close. And just a few days after Trump presented the Stargate project, the Bank of China presented a $140 billion plan to increase its dominance over AI. However, we've already mentioned that DeepSeek is an open model, so any American company could copy it and improve it. There are many explanations for this, but it's not what one would expect to see in an arms race, such as the one over the atomic bomb. And let's be honest, on Trump's part, there are also things that don't quite fit this theory. For example, Trump has signed an executive order halting the construction of renewable energy on federal lands, even though it's the primary source of energy used by Texas data centers. I don't know, if this project was so important, I don't think the Trump administration would go around doing these things just to please a small proportion of their voters, do you? And this is not the only example of Trump not seeming to be in Cold War 2.0 mode. There is, without going any further, the case of TikTok, which he has revived while the Biden administration did its best to shut it down, since it shares all its data with the Chinese Communist Party. And if that wasn't enough, we know that the Stargate infrastructure is only going to serve OpenAI. If the goal were a new Manhattan project, then it would be natural for this infrastructure to be used to its fullest extent, wouldn't it? Bottom line, Stargate is still a project about which we know very little. They don't seem to have funding or even a management team nailed down yet, and it's not clear that they're going to get the most out of this massive investment. What is clear is that the race for AI is all about national security, but I don't know, it doesn't look like this project is going to be the US secret weapon against China. But having come this far, now it's your turn. What will the Stargate project really consist of? Will it be truly innovative, or is it just a marketing ploy to curry favor with Donald Trump? What will be the next step for the US to win the race for artificial intelligence? You can leave me your answers down in the comments. And as always, don't forget that here on Visualeconomik, we release new videos every week, so subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell so you don't miss any of our updates. If you like this video, like it, and I'll see you in the next one. All the best, I'll see you next time.